Hey, there's Jeff Henderson with Fleet Feet and Marathoners in Training. I'm here with Dawn Holmes, a registered dietitian, sports dietitian with Real Life Fuel. We're here today to talk about hydration and how that pertains to half marathoners and marathoners. Thanks for being here today to talk about that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We get a lot of questions. We've got folks that are out there running anywhere from 2 miles early in the season to 20 miles later in the season. Hydration obviously is a very critical component.
Yeah.
One of the first things we want to kind of dive into really is how much should I be drinking before and during a run?
Sure. So the quick answer is it depends. There are at least 8 different position papers in my office talking about hydration. Everyone is unique in terms of how much fluids their body needs, how much they sweat, how much sodium they lose. So Jeff and I drink different amounts of fluids when we're training. So sort of a guideline would be around 16 to 24 ounces of fluids within 2 hours of training. Probably cut yourself off about 15 minutes before so you can go to the bathroom. Then while you're out there, around 18 to 24 ounces of an hour is a good target. The important thing to do is to start regularly hydrating while you're training. So maybe every 15 to 20 minutes, every mile. But to get that routine going so that you stay on top of your hydration, because you can't catch up once you get behind. And for each mouthful of fluid, it's about an ounce. So that's one way to gauge how much you're drinking.
Selfish question.
Yeah.
I like my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly before, well, I like it all the time, but I also drink it before I run.
Yeah.
How much should I weigh that as far as the 16 to 20 ounces and then any sort of detriment to the rest of my hydration plan?
Sure. So coffee is great in small amounts. If you drink large quantities, it can be sort of a diuretic where you're running to the bathroom. But maybe that's helpful, so you kind of get that taken care of before you go out for a run. I would say the amount that you typically consume in the morning, if it's 16 ounces, that seems appropriate. I find that when I drink coffee, I get thirsty, so then maybe after that, you're more prone to drink your water or your sports drink. But it can be helpful, in fact, for people who don't drink coffee regularly. If you do it before training runs, it could actually sort of enhance your performance.
Perfect, thank you.
But you want to try it out.
Is there any correlation to the mileage? So early in the season, folks might be doing a 2 to 6 mile run. Later in the season, 12 or 20 miles, depending on what they're training for. Any correlation with how much fluids they should be taking in?
So generally, if you're running probably more than a half an hour, you need to have fluids in addition to that training. If you're doing longer runs, then you'll need more fluid because you're out there for a longer period of time. So it kind of depends on how long you're out there. You will need more the more you're out training, and the temperature also will impact that too. So the hotter it is, the more you'll probably need to drink.
Perfect. What about, balancing out water or an electrolyte drink?
Sure. So great question. So when we sweat, it's not just water. We're losing electrolytes. So sodium and chloride are in the greatest amount. And I actually have a great picture of kind of what that looks like. Then there's also potassium and magnesium and calcium and even iron. So when we drink water, those aren't there. And in fact, your body will not absorb it as well, and you will have to increase trips to the bathroom to try to get rid of it so that you're not over diluting your electrolytes. Whereas a sports drink, and particularly on runs like over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, is where that would be most appropriate. And so that's one, it probably tastes good, so you want to drink it. And then two, it has the electrolytes, so it's helping you to replace what you're losing in your sweat. And everyone has a different amount of sodium that they lose, so you'll have to figure out which type of sports drink works best for you. If you're cramping, you'll need more sodium or more fluids to help relieve that.
Besides water or an electrolyte drink, are there other sources that I should consider including to kind of help with my magnesium, potassium, sodium, what have you?
Sure. So sodium, like salty snacks, it's not too hard to find things that are high in salt, like pretzels or pickles, chips. And then those things you could eat throughout the day even, and it helps you drink a little bit more. So magnesium we find in a lot of our nuts and beans or nut butters, seeds, So those can be things that you just include throughout the course of the day. Potassium we find a lot in our fruits and vegetables, so if you're getting your 5 a day, then you're pretty much on target. Potassium is also found a good source of in dairy, so milk and yogurt, cheeses.
I know you hit on this during our nutrition talk, but as it pertains to sodium, heart disease concerns, anything that we should take into consideration there?
So when you are exercising, you are sweating and you're losing sodium, so it's appropriate to replace or at least to supplement sodium so that you don't become dehydrated or run into situations where your sodium is too diluted, and it's called hyponatremia, which could be dangerous. So we want to make sure that when you're over exercising for that longer period of time that you're including some electrolytes. Shorter distances, not as necessary, but again, it depends on how much sodium you lose in your sweat. And you can kind of gauge that by sort of the white ring you may have around your shirt, or if you have sort of this powdery residue, or if when your sweat gets in your eyes it stings. Those are all indications that you lose more salt when you're sweating.
Can I just cram a whole lot of water and electrolytes in Friday before my Saturday long run?
Cramming always is the best strategy, right? So, not the best. We can carbo load, but hydration is the difference. So, with hydration, it's not an effective strategy. In fact, you're going to be running to the bathroom quite a bit. It's better if you can kind of just, okay, this is how much I need for the day, and target that. And then the next morning, make sure you are doing your, 16 to 20 ounces before I go run, and then regularly hydrating during. If you are dehydrated, then yeah, it makes sense to drink more that day before, but doubling up on your hydration, you're not going to feel very good.
So if I'm carrying around my water bottle at work or what have you, is there kind of a helpful goal maybe I should be thinking about?
Right.
For myself, it's different for everyone,
Right.
to try to get ahead of that and stay properly hydrated.
Sure. So a nice rule of thumb is about half of your body weight. That's the ounces of fluids you should try to consume a day. I find that that's really helpful for a lot of people. And please don't just drink water. So we talked about when you sweat, you are losing your electrolytes. But if you're just consuming water throughout the day, you aren't going to be as well hydrated than if you have milk or soy milk, juice, coffee even counts as fluids, juicy fruits and vegetables, soups, stews, smoothies. Those are all ways to get that amount of ounces of fluids for the day.
When I first started marathoning, I really didn't drink a whole lot. I just assumed, I go out and run and I'll chug a whole lot of water afterwards.
Right.
Some folks may train for their first half marathon and never drink an ounce of water the entire race. Say somebody's making that jump to a full marathon, or even just kind of getting started in a half marathon.
Right.
And they know they need to revise their strategy. What sort of hints or tips would you have for those folks?
Sure. So I find that a lot of folks, when you're doing something the first time, you're just kind of trying it, and then you realize that didn't work out so well, or I'm going to double my distance. I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. So again, it's frequent hydration while you're out there training, and then getting your day-to-day fueling or day-to-day hydration met. So when you're doing training runs, to make sure that you have like a bottle with you, and every couple miles, like you're taking several sips or several mouthfuls, so that would be a couple ounces every couple miles, and trying to shoot for that 16 to 24 ounces per hour. Again, try weighing yourself before or after a training run to see that weight difference. That weight loss is actually fluid loss. And losing a couple, maybe 2 or 3 pounds isn't a big deal, but if you lose 5 or 6, that's a big deal. And that tells us, okay, we need to add more fluid in the next time I run because you're not drinking enough. So for each pound that you lose, say you lose 4 pounds, so we want to add another 16 ounces the next time you run. Or you lose 5 pounds, we want to add another 32 ounces the next time you run that distance.
A marathon training season is done over the course of a number of weeks. We certainly don't want to wait until our longest runs to try to figure out our nutrition plan.
Right.
How could we best practice, balancing our hydration and also taking in whether it's water, Gatorade, maybe a goo or some sort of gel type of thing. How can we try to balance that and practice that well in advance?
Okay, good question. So generally when you are running over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, that's when electrolytes become really important, and that's when additional carbohydrates become really important. I recommend, so the fluids needs to start like 15 or 20 minutes into the run. So that's just part of what you're doing. If you are a salty sweater, if you didn't eat a lot before you ran, then we want to start adding like carbohydrates in there too. Generally, a rule of thumb is 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour of activity. So if you're running a marathon, that may even be a little bit more. You could do 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour. But in general, I recommend every 15 or 20 minutes, you're hydrating and fueling so that you kind of have a regular interval. For me, it was every 2 miles, I'm hydrating and fueling.
Excellent, thank you. So as a sports dietitian, you obviously run into folks that are training for any number of things, whether it's half marathons, full marathons, or just trying to stay healthy and active.
Right.
Any other helpful tips as it relates to hydration?
I think with hydration, it's really important to figure out what type of sweater you are, how heavy of sweater you are, weighing yourself before and after that training run. And if you have issues with cramping, that tells me we need to do more sodium while you're training. But knowing that even though it's not super convenient, it's really important to have that fluid with you because you never know what's going to happen out there on the trail.
Excellent. Well, Dawn, thank you so much. We're going to have a couple of infographics that Dawn has shared with me that we'll have those linked to the down below here, the video. So check those out as well. Check out the rest of our Ask the Experts series here with Fleet Feet and Marathoners in Training. Dawn, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.